there's all these hybrid Buddhisms now. And it won't produce the results. You can't improve on a fully enlightened Buddha's teaching. I was reading this, was it a forum or something? And I don't know, I would try noting is, it's, I'm more peaceful when I don't note, well, we're not noting to be peaceful. We're noting to wake up. If you want to be peaceful, take a nap, watch your breath, do a mantra. There's all kinds of ways to get peaceful. You do get peaceful with mindfulness meditation, but there's a factor in there that produces wisdom, where you understand. If you're just getting peaceful and doing concentration meditation, there's no wisdom involved. Mindfulness meditation is the one meditation that's about developing wisdom. You develop concentration also, but it's aimed at understanding yourself, your situation, your thoughts, your moods, and getting free from them. And it works, but you got to do it right. You can't take it and say, oh, well, just change it this way, but then it's not the same thing. It's like if you have a chocolate chip cookie recipe and you add jalapeno peppers to it. Well, it's just a slight, I'm just adding a little bit of something else. Well, it's not going to be recognized as a chocolate chip cookie, as the traditional chocolate chip cookie, because, it's hot and got pepper in it. But it's just a slight variation on the recipe. Getting enlightened, getting happy, getting peaceful, those things aren't easy to do. And it's a very specific science, a very specific recipe. And you can't change it and expect to get the same results as if you use the original recipe. It just doesn't work that way. This, everybody almost in the world is miserable. And they're not enlightened, and they're not peaceful, and most of them aren't moral. And if you're trying to be those things, you're aiming at a very small target. It's not like anything goes, Oh, I can do this, I can do that, I can do this. If you're trying to develop these sciences, these abilities in yourself, there's a certain way to do it. You can't just do it this way or that way or that way or that way or that way. I mean, if you could, this would be a different world. There'd be all kinds of happy people that didn't steal and didn't lie and, everything. Yes.
Morality is such an important part of Buddhist meditation, right? It's kind of like the first thing.
Yeah. Because if your mind is involved in all kinds of unwholesome, you're scoring drugs and trying to hit up on your neighbor's wife and steal the guy downstairs mountain bike and all that, you're not going to do very well at meditation. You're not going to have a good platform for developing peace and tranquility. You're probably going to be living in fear that you'll get caught, or that her husband will find out, or you'll get busted for drugs, or, I mean, immorality, unwholesome. The Buddha didn't call it so much immorality as unskillful. Spiritual development is about purification. And purification means getting rid of unskillful, unwholesome, things that people don't approve of, that the society in general doesn't like, but also that are just not good for you. If you're a thief, you can go to jail. And that's not good for you. If you're doing drugs, you can go to jail, or overdose, or I mean, these things, lying. If you're a liar, your reputation isn't going to be very good. People are going to get hip to it. That this guy, you can't believe anything this guy says. I mean, these things just don't produce a happy mind or a happy life or a successful life. It looks like it. I mean, we see, there are characters in the news that do all kinds of stuff, and they get away with it, and they get away with it, and you go, wow, wait, but karma doesn't always ripen immediately. There's karma that ripens immediately. There's karma that ripens later in this life. And there's karma that ripens in future lives. And so you can't look at it and see a direct relation. I mean, in a lot of cases you can. Good karma, a person decides, oh, I'd like to help people. And so they take, what do they call it? Pre-med courses. And then they go to medical school. And they graduate, and then they do what do they call that? Intern or whatever. They work in the hospital after they graduate from medical school and all that. And they get certified and all that. And they're a doctor. Well, their actions made them a doctor. Just like, that works in all kinds of ways. I mean, you can see, okay, yeah, they did this, and that led to, what they wanted. Well, meditating and
We follow the precepts are really important, right? I mean, just the 5 of them for lay people.
Yeah, abstain from
Right.
killing, stealing, lying, sexual misconduct, and abuse of drugs and alcohol. I asked Tongpulu Sayadaw, he was known as World Peace Sayadaw, and I thought about that for like a year or something. Wait a minute, how do you get a title like that? And I asked him, what's the secret to world peace? And he said, the 5 precepts: not killing, not stealing, not lying, no sexual misconduct, not abusing drugs and alcohol. I went, oh my God, that is so simple. It'll never happen. I mean, maybe in some future paradise or something. But I mean, you're not going to get everybody on the planet to stop doing those things, probably. Highly unlikely. But that's the secret to world peace. That's all anybody we'd have to do. If people say they want it, but would they do that? The noting, like saying to yourself what you're doing is, well, like I said, first of all, the Buddha said to do it, but then my explanations of it is, you're engaging the discursive word processes of your mind, that if you weren't doing that, the Buddha didn't say, like the Buddha said, when he is walking, he knows I, in quotes, I am walking. That's noting. He didn't say when he's walking, he knows he's walking. That would be without noting. You know, knowing you're walking and he knows I am walking, in quotes, there it is right there. And it makes all the difference. It's, and there are so many authorities and famous teachers and things that don't teach that. And I mean, the Buddha taught it, and you're calling what you're teaching Buddhism, but you just decided, oh, that's not necessary. You know, who are you to decide what's necessary in a Buddhist teaching? I mean, if you want to change it, don't call yourself a Buddhist. Call yourself a, you know, if your name's Phil, call yourself a Philist. Or if your name's Bob, call yourself a Bobist. You know, because that's your teaching. That's not the Buddhist teaching. Anyways, the really great teachers like Mahasi Sayadaw and Tongpulu Sayadaw and my teacher Sumatipala, they are just a conduit for the teaching of the Buddha. They're not trying to get famous for their own spin on things or my version. You know, they don't do that. They won't go near that. They are just continuing the pipeline from 2,600 years ago to the best of their ability and knowledge to keep that powerful, effective, those powerful, effective tools as authentic as possible so that they work for people, you know? I mean, the Buddha would talk to a group of people, and sometimes 300 of them would get enlightened just listening to what he was saying. And then there's a bunch of heavenly beings that are listening in, and like 30,000 of them get enlightened. It's a powerful message. These were exceptional beings, but at the end of a number of suttas, they say, you know, at the conclusion of the talk, 300 or 600 or 30,000 or 10,000, or, you know, they even give numbers of how many people got enlightened just listening to the talk. So, of course, when a Buddha talks, people listen. I'm just being, but I mean, when a Buddha talks, it's very special, and he knows who he's talking to, and he says things that are suited to their intellect, to their inclination, to their tendencies. You know, he knows who he's talking to, so he tells them just the right, just the, you know, he tells them the stuff that is just right to smooth them out, put them in the right frame, and bingo. Now that they say that doesn't happen anymore, and yeah, that's true. Hearing, you know, by hearing a talk, people don't get enlightened nowadays. But the noting practice, you note what your mind is doing and what your body's doing. You know, if you feel your feet on the ground, you know, touching. If you have an itch, you know, itching. If you scratch it, you know, scratching. If you hear something, you know, hearing. You know, I'm hearing. That's like when he's walking, he knows I am walking. When he's hearing, he knows I am hearing. We don't say I am hearing, we say hearing. You identify the process, not the object. If you hear a bird, you don't know bird. You know what you're doing relative to the bird. You're hearing it. Now I'm hearing. Now I'm thinking about birds. Now I'm picturing a bird. Now I'm remembering a bird. Now I'm itching. Now I'm scratching. Now I'm hearing the stereo next door. You don't say the stereo next door, but follow where your mind goes and what your body does. And it's a really powerful tool. It's the most powerful tool in the universe, actually. And the Buddha said, it's the only way for the purification of beings, for overcoming sorrow, grief, lamentation, woe, and you can include in that stress, anger, prejudice, resentment, all the negative emotions that people find themselves oppressed by, for coming to the right path, for the realization of enlightenment. Not only does it do those other things, you can get enlightened, and people are getting enlightened. It's not this myth. I mean, there aren't very many compared to the population of the planet, but there's, fairly large numbers of people, particularly in Burma and Sri Lanka, but also in the United States and in England and in Australia and places, Thailand. And people are actually, they apply these principles, it works, they wake up. And like my brother said at the beginning of one of these get-togethers a month ago or something like that, he said, I was severely depressed for years. His wife died. And then he took up this meditation and did really well at it. And he's not only not depressed, he's a happy person. He's happy. He can't believe it almost. He never dreamed he could be happy. The transformative power of knowing what you're doing. I mean, the other thing is this stuff is counterintuitive. It doesn't sound like, oh, that's what'll do it. It doesn't sound like that's what'll do it. There's all kinds of other things, therapy, qigong, I don't know, breathing. That's what everybody's selling nowadays, is do this and you'll be happy. First, I mean, if happiness means sort of you'll get transitory pleasure out of it, some of those things will do that. If happiness means getting your mind what's the word? Arranged, set up so that it functions in good places, in happy places. So that's where your mind goes. It doesn't go to depression. It doesn't go to anger. It doesn't go to resentment. If it does, it only goes briefly and you note it and you come back to your happy mind. You realize these things are just passing through. They're just distractions. They aren't real, if you're really mindful and you get angry, that anger, the beginning anger, only lasts a few seconds. It's then if you reflect on it, roll it over and over again, and then you get really angry and it builds. But it's a series of little events that create and snowball and become something. But if you see it when it begins and are mindful of it, it'll just go away. You don't go there. You go, oh no, I know what this is about. I don't want to go there. And you don't. And then you're happy because you're free from oppression, depression, anger, negative mind states. That's what happiness is. Happiness doesn't have to be a thrill ride at Magic Mountain or something, or a fabulous meal or something. It doesn't have to be big sense pleasure. Happiness can just be peace. My son says to me sometimes, I'm bored. And I go, oh, God, that's great. I mean, bored means there's nothing you have to deal with. You don't have to be anywhere. You're not particularly, motivated about something or in some mood or something like that. I mean, bored is actually, close to kind of good place. It's a sort of free, rather empty. I mean, for people that are living on sense hits, a spicy burrito and a exciting movie, and if you're like a excitement junkie, then boring is like a curse almost. You want the news or the game or the food or the whatever it is, because you're thriving on pleasant feelings. But when you're really enslaved by them. You're a junkie to them. If you can get free from them to where you don't need them and feel good, oh man, first of all, it'll save you a whole bunch of money and a whole bunch of grief, because these things, these pleasure hits end, and then it's like, oh, I really like that meal, but now it's over. Oh, then you have to go looking for another one. It's a really a kind of an addiction, that you have to keep pursuing. Oh, I heard there's a new Thai restaurant over there. We have to go try that. It's okay to go eat at Thai restaurants, but if you're compelled to do these things, it's a compulsion. I mean, there's nothing wrong with a nice dinner and enjoying it. I mean, that's a good life. But if you're enslaved to those needs or to moods or something, you're a victim. You can become a victim of your own mind. The mind gets depressed and like, oh, and you just go there, or the mind gets angry. But if you get some distance on these things and a kind of a comfortable place where you can watch them, oh man, then you don't have to jump on every thing that you hear that would make you angry, or every ad for I don't know, ice cream or a restaurant or a car or a vacation or a theme park or something like that. You can, and you go, oh yeah, that might be kind of fun, well, then that passes away and you're over it usually, and then you don't have to spend $1,500 on a cruise or something because you're happy already. And then You don't need that to like fill up, what you think you're missing. So you gain some concentration, some tranquility, some presence of mind, some perspective on on what's going on, what the mind is doing, what the body's doing. And then you get freedom, and you're not like, every thought you think isn't real and you have to like act it out or something. It's just passing through, and you get a good thought and you think, oh yeah, if I like that, maybe I'll do it, maybe I'll mow the lawn tomorrow or something. But you're not like needing it to fulfill whatever, I don't know what, craving, need, something. But you have to, and basically you learn to be happy with yourself and to accept the world as it is. It's, I mean, the truth is what is.